Four Knights of the Apocalypse Chapter 244 is officially out, and honestly, once more, we get another great chapter. Not only does the fight between Galahad and Lancelot continue to be really cool, as well as giving us more implications as to how Lancelot and Galahad's relationship might be in the future. However, we get some teases as to how Lance might actually be this strong, and that he might actually not be physically strong, and that his abilities are primarily based off of his magic power in this instance. I'll get into that later on as well, and we have a massive cliffhanger at the end of the chapter that actually kind of sets up what the rest of this is going to end up leading us into with the Holy Grail Knights and the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. So we're going to dive into all of that in just a second. And if you want to see more of me outside this channel, go and check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about comic books. I've got a lot of stuff planned for that as well. It's a passion project of mine. I would really appreciate it if you guys go check it out down in the description below. It's really appreciated. Now then, let's just jump right into this chapter. Chapter 244 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled The Man Who Refused to Talk. Cover image is of all the Grail Knights in like chibi forms, just so they could all fit on the cover and just something nice and simple to draw for the cover image. But the chapter begins directly from last week, where Lancelot was seemingly stabbed through the heart by Galahad. And so, Galahad looks over to his friends and says, "Alright, my target's done, how about you guys?" But when he turns around, he notices that the rest of the Grail Knights are kind of hanging out with their future parents right now, and he's wondering what the heck is going on. Did they do something to you? I did my part, you guys should finish up right now. But they're trying to convince Galahad to listen to them, but Galahad is thinking, oh, you guys must be brainwashed or something. Got it, I'll deal with this for you. Obviously not listening to even his friends trying to talk him down for a second. Even ysaye is trying to tell him what he's actually done, that he probably killed his father from the past, which if there is time travel paradox stuff, then that could not be good. But before even he can finish his sentence to try and convince Galahad to stop, the other four knights are just nonchalantly and giddily going right up to Galahad, saying how strong he might actually be, wondering what exactly he did, saying that, wow, you really gave Lancelot a real workout there, that was impressive. As the Holy Grail Knights are just stunned by their seemingly nonchalantness, as it seemed like their friend was just killed right in front of them. And I really do love how Tristan's the one that says, the way you handle yourself against Lancelot is nice. Very good. And it makes sense because Tristan has known Lancelot the longest since they were young, since they were little kids, and he has never been able to beat the guy in any real combat, which is really cool and funny. But Galahad is obviously confused, wondering if the Four Knights are just out of their mind after seeing their friend die right in front of them. But then they just start laughing it up because they knew that that's not going to be enough to take care of Lancelot. As then Lancelot is just casually flying behind him in his fairy mode, as Galahad doesn't even notice until the last minute, as he sees Lancelot has transformed. Now yeah, we all knew that Lancelot wasn't going to lose last chapter. It was way too obvious, and you can't have the strongest character go out just like that in one singular chapter, especially against a character that is being set up to potentially be an ally at this point. And if we are doing time travel paradox stuff, that would be very unfortunate. But with Lancelot appearing from behind, ysaye ends up saying, "Look at that form he's taken right now. That's enough evidence for you. This guy is the honest-to-goodness Lancelot. Snap out of this tunnel vision you got. We are not gonna fight our future parents in this weird time travel bullshit stuff." But Galahad isn't having it, thinking that this is another trick by these so-called fakes, and that it is an insult upon his father for him to even take another one of his transformations. And that it's beyond malicious, telling everybody that these are all fakes, and that he would know most of all if he were dealing with the real Lancelot. And ysaye is obviously panicking over the fact and trying to make excuses for Galahad that he gets tunnel vision sometimes when he focuses in too much, and it's gonna be really hard to persuade him that that's the actual Lancelot. Like he's trying to make an excuse to his parents for why his friend is misbehaving. So Tristan tries to go over to Lancelot, saying that it looks like there was all one big misunderstanding, can you at least hear these guys out? Lancelot lands down, turns back to normal, and says, fine, I'll hear them out. Which for a second the Grail Knights are relieved, until Lancelot says that he's gonna talk to them right after he whips his ass. As now everybody is just like, what the hell is he doing? With Tristan just, alright, yeah, Lance can get like that also, so sorry for that. So it looks like there is real hyper-focus between the two of them, just regardless of the fact. Lancelot seems more likely to want to talk things out, but due to their interaction, he just wants to kick this guy's ass because he's actually giving him a challenge and he's annoying him. And I do like how Tristan instantly realizes that Lancelot just won't listen to reason sometimes when he's hyper-focused on things. Like father, like son, I guess. Galahad is thinking that Lance must be really lucky to avoid a fatal blow like that. But in his head, he's wondering what exactly happened, saying that he was sure he stabbed him through the heart. But he's masking his confusion by obviously talking tough, saying that either way, if he's hiding any powers, he better break them all out before he regrets it. And so Lance is like, alright, that's good advice for you too, ain't it? And I'll answer that question of yours while I'm at it. And that's when Galahad is realizing, wait, can he read my mind? And in that instant, Lancelot just erupts in a double-page spread with immense magical energy surrounding the both of them, as it pushes everyone back from just the sheer shockwave of it, to the point where Lohengrin was about to fall off the edge of the cliff until her brother and Percival grab onto her. Now this is, I think, the first time we see Lancelot actually release his actual aura in post-time skip. The last time he did this was when he was fighting against Nanashi during the Demon Realm arc. And when he did that, the fight ended literally the next hit. So this is where things are getting interesting. Galahad is commenting over how this dense magical energy and force feels like a gigantic torrent of mud, and that this must be the secret to how he blocked the strike initially. Now Galahad is still standing in the middle of this torrent of just sheer energy, while Lancelot is looking like a sheer demon with how he's shaded and drawn in that instance. And once his aura emits, the ground around them begins to crumble as it just breaks in half. The platform that they're on begins falling straight to the ground, as the entire thing is just covered in Lancelot's aura, as Tristan and Ysaye manage to just call out to their friends' names. And then we get a really sick sequence where the two of them are just fighting while the platform is falling like hundreds of feet down to the ground. And it's really nice. Lancelot's fighting primarily through kicks, he's dodging and weaving, while Galahad is trying to slice him with his sword. And when this inevitably gets animated, they need to kind of pull in the stops and maybe expand this a bit more, because this is a really cool sequence. But it's in that Lancelot is beginning to question what's going on, because Galahad is being able to move freely without having the magic resist him, as he's wondering how he learned to attack like this and who he even really is. With Galahad saying that if he thought a little stream like this would be able to stop him, then he's sorely mistaken, saying that he was a fake of his father from the very beginning, start to finish, and now it's really pissing him off. He doesn't say that Lance is his father, obviously, but still, the very act of this is making him angry. And so he gets ready to try and slice at Lancelot, but Lancelot obviously dodges out of the way, as they get close to hitting the ground. And in the mere seconds before the rubble hits the ground, the two of them clash and then each land a singular tough blow on the other. Lance punching Galahad in the chest, while Galahad kicks Lancelot in the chest as well, pushing the two of them back as the ground falls and turns to rubble. Lance, to catch himself, turns into the fairy mode so that he can fly and hover above the ground to help basically stop his fall. But obviously Lance is really concerned that he might have actually killed this kid, and asks if he's okay. But Galahad says, I may not look it, but I'm a quarter fairy. I can at least hover a bit off the ground. So Galahad managed to stop himself from hitting the ground really hard to actually injure himself, because since he's part fairy, like his father, he can actually float just slightly above the ground. Which might imply that Galahad might not be able to have the transformation ability that Lance has if he's flying in his seemingly human mode. So it seems like Galahad might not have the transformation abilities that Lancelot has. And so Lancelot begins to wonder, he has fairy blood in him. Who is he? As then, they both touch down on the ground, and Galahad says, now it's time we settle this for all, calling him fake a lot, which, something that a kid would obviously say, for just the sheer sake of it and to get under someone's skin. But after they square off one more time, Galahad throws his left hand forward, as it seems a massive wave of energy is emitted from it, or some kind of force, as you get a silhouetted, ominous look of Lancelot, as you then cut away from the fight. Me personally, I think this might be Galahad's way of inheriting his grandfather's abilities of physical hunt, or Hunterfest, if he's able to just take Lancelot's physical vitality or magical energy for himself to boost his own strength. That would be really cool to see that type of ability to kind of skip a generation in this instance. But this is where I'm going to take a bit of to discuss, because I said earlier at the beginning of the video that Lancelot's powers might not be purely physical, and I think a lot of us have kind of figured this to an extent right now. But based off how Lancelot exuded his magical aura and the fact that Galahad ended up asking if this magical aura was how Lancelot was able to keep himself from getting pierced to death by a sword through the heart, implies that Lancelot's powers aren't a physical boost for the most part, but the physical increase in power is from just exuding his magical energy, like a type of second shell. Primarily the sheer pressure that he emits when he unleashes that energy. Because literally, when he unleashed it, he was able to push people back, and Galahad is thinking that this sheer pressure that he's unleashing is how he was able to not pierce his heart. Which means that every time Lancelot has physically overpowered somebody, it was just him using that pressure from his own energy to boost his overall strength. Physically, he might still be relatively strong and he's really skilled, but he might not be, like, in terms of physical strength, on par of Gawain when she's in 80% form, or demon mode Tristan. It's primarily his magical energy just exuding out from him and giving that enough pressure as a type of both shield, but also that extra punching force effectively. Which does open the door potentially for Lancelot to fight an actual opponent that is physically superior to him, that if he can't just push them back or evade them using his own aura to push them back, like Galahad is doing right now, being able to actually fight in the middle of the maelstrom of just sheer pressure that he's emitting off of him, then Lancelot will actually have a real challenge, because technique-wise and fighting ability-wise, he's on par, if not greater than a lot of other fighters in the universe. But his physical strength might not be all that better than maybe Percival as he is, or maybe even base Tristan. However, he's compensating for that for the sheer just pressure and output that his own energy is just emitting when he unleashes it when he's fighting. That could literally be it, and that'd be a really nice way to kind of add some type of limitation or way to get around Lancelot's sheer invincibility if he fights someone that can get around it. And even Lancelot says it's the type of trick that Galahad might be doing to fight in that maelstrom, which shows that in the future, when Lancelot trains his kid, he teaches them a trick as to how to fight within this maelstrom so that he can actually, train with his dad. So that would be an interesting thing to think about if there is just a sheer technique or way to utilize your abilities to fight and get bypass Lancelot's pressure in general. If used correctly, this could really add some more tension to fights when it comes to Lancelot, especially when we have to fight Cath again in the future, or some other force that can make their way to them later down the road. Either way, this does seem like the turning point of this fight. Lance and Galahad are around the same age, but Galahad is putting up an actual fight against Lancelot, which generally this is the best anybody has done against Lancelot, especially since Lancelot unleashed his aura. So I'm curious to see how this is going to pan out. And again, we're cutting away from this fight after Galahad is doing something with his left hand that seemingly freezes Lancelot in place for whatever reason. So we'll have to figure that out in the next chapter. We then cut back to the peanut gallery, as everyone's just wondering, man, they're really going at it non-stop. How are we even going to stop these two from potentially hurting each other or killing each other? And again, they mentioned like father, like son. And everyone's wondering, wow, that might actually be the real Lancelot. But then some weird pinging and ringing happens, with everyone wondering what it is. But Gawain says it's actually just her crystal ball. And so she can chant a spell to summon it to her, as it's an ability called Carry Room. As she's wondering who's calling her, it is actually on the opposite line, surprised that she's seeing Gawain in her new form, and she's wondering if everybody else is with her. As Percival goes up to her, saying it's really nice to see you, and Nazianz is there as well, with Lohengrin and Cardiez actually realizing, wow, it really is our moms, but wow, that is so weird. Now, Percival is getting all giddy, getting ready to say that he met their future kids, but Anne cuts him up saying she doesn't care whatever happened because actual trouble's happening right now back in Leonis, as the scene is pretty chaotic and gruesome right now, but we learn that the citizens of Cameliard got attacked on their way back to their kingdom, and they're wondering what it was. And Anne says that according to Gother, it seems like Cath Palug is alive after all, as the last page of the chapter is of a caravan, completely destroyed, claw marks, I believe a citizen is pierced through the top of a tree, dismembered horses, everything in sheer chaos. It's only in one panel, but it's enough detail for us to see just the sheer carnage that happened afterwards. And that's how the chapter ends. Now, this makes sense because the last time we saw Cath was at the very end of the battle with the Sins, and us catching up with the Four Knights, where we saw Cath in his mini form literally devouring actual people to regain his strength. So, this scene has two things happening. One, he more or less potentially ate almost every citizen and killed every citizen of Camelot to regain enough strength to leave and potentially go back to Camelot. And, for all we know, if Guinevere was there, he might have kidnapped Guinevere, which means we might get the whole locked in a tower thing again for Lancelot to go and save her, but this time he has the Four Knights and the Holy Grail Knights with him, so this will be interesting to go about things. But we do establish that the Four Knights are potentially not even ready for the battle against Cath if he does regain his full strength, because they can't kill him. They still have to get back to Leonis with the Holy Grail so that they can make their sacred treasures with Arthur's blood in order to kill Cath once and for all. So even if they fight Cath, chances are they're not going to be able to win. Heck, 3 out of the 4 knights had problems with the 4 perils increased with chaos power, which was barely even half based off of how he was fighting against the Sins when it came to everything going on. So I'm generally curious as to what could potentially happen, because right now the only 1 out of the 4 knights that could potentially fight Cath is Lancelot, like Bond fought Cath in the previous arc one-on-one with no issues. But again, he can't kill Cath, and even then, Cath might be physically strong enough or be able to figure out how to maneuver through Lancelot's like sheer aura and pressure in order to deal damage to him, because he knows the Lady of the Lake is the reason for Lancelot having his abilities in the first place, so he might have already figured out how to deal with Lancelot's power and the fighting abilities. But we do have the Holy Grail Knights here, so this could add into something else, but again, I'm not entirely sure where we're leading with this, because Cath is still the main villain right now, but I'm still unsure as to the full direction of the series, since we are doing a little future kids meeting their past parents type deal in this current section of the story, so I got no clue where this is leading. Either way, I am excited and I look forward to what could happen next. But you guys let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this chapter, what do you think is going to happen next, how do you feel about the reveal about how Lancelot's powers might actually work, and are you curious and excited for an actual fight against Cath with our real full cast members right now? Let me know in the comment section down below. And once more, if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys the content I make on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to support me more directly, go and check out my Patreon link in the description below, where I'm going to start doing Patreon exclusive manga reviews for one particular series every single month. And I'm going to start trying to do reaction videos on there as well, to give you guys some nice exclusive content for you over there, to help support the channel and to give you guys a nice bonus treat every month. So I really hope you guys go and check it out when you get the chance. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.